Pardon me.
Thanks all who are online and those in the room with us. We have several guests who are residents as well as city staffers today. And we have some shifts of the agenda that I'll just go over quickly. Yes, ma'am. I'm just gonna do a quick roll call. Brian, Helen, Mike, Pauline, myself, Sheila, Harriet, Frank, Deborah. Did I get everybody? Great. I'm gonna briefly read the agenda. Item number 2, I should have removed, that was from last month. And I'm just gonna have Harriet talk about best communication methods for all persons, those who are visually impaired or myself have hearing losses. We have some minutes to look at. We have some communications from Sheila. Updates from Frank and Harriet about the weekly CCA or communication meetings that we have. We have Ben Deemers here and some other staff joining us from economic development. They're going to update us on the Coleman's site. We also have a couple of items that I'm going to talk about, specifically some plotting, some plans for disability front. When I say plot, I mean like on a calendar plot. Plan. And then and Joe is here. Joe, I don't want to mispronounce your name.
Abazon, you want to take a guess?
Buzon?
Good job, Buzon.
Buzon.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
What's that spelled? How is that spelled?
Buzon.
Us French are very phonetic.
Well, correct. It sounds French, but my parents are from the Philippines.
Do you want to just briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. Again, my name is Joe Buzon, lifelong resident of Somerville. And I was a part of this Commission for Disability for a couple of years, but about a decade ago-ish, give and take. And then because of personal and professional reasons, I had to kind of leave the committee. Then I found out the committees and the commission is so active, I want to possibly re-engage, see what I can do, bring some value, whether it be a member or just being attending and providing some experience. And then from a professional level, state, and I work for the Commission for the Blind. Different capacity.
Hi, Ingrid.
Shall I do anything?
Are you taking minutes?
Oh, I could, is everyone okay about that?
I'm fine with you. Too.
Okay,
Everybody would be very okay with that.
Yes.
okay, since we do not currently have a secretary.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, guys, put on a movie or whatever.
So she said, no, I think she's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's out here.
You didn't need it, yeah.
Ooh,
This is Harriet, and I'd like to just speak about some of the ways we need to pay attention as we communicate in the meeting. First, please say your name before you speak. And secondly, do your best to say what every acronym means. The alphabet soup that we each drown in, depending on the work that we do, is expensive, and we're not all multilingual in those ways. And third is quite obvious. We'll do our best not to crosstalk. And with a bit of consciousness, let's speak a bit more clearly, loudly, and deliberately. And that makes it easier both for captioning and for those of us who are a bit of hard of hearing, etc. So I think, did I miss anything, Connie? Those are the ones I think of.
Nope, those are them.
Thank you. That completes my little part.
Ben, you want me to, we'll wait till they get here?
Yeah.
Yes.
If that's all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're gonna go through, there are several minutes that we're still waiting for them to be drafted, and I was looking at the January one that I saw today. And my only recollection is that it doesn't look like I said anything. Oh, no, wait, there's a section here of this, I did not have enough time to look at this today. So, I'm not gonna be doing anything with those at this meeting. And I know that some of us weren't feeling well and we like to, jump off the call. And since we have 8 voting members present, 9,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
please, if anyone would like to go back, they can feel free to.
Wait, what?
I think Holly was clarifying that we had some folks who were on the fence about attending this evening
Oh, yeah,
because of
Weren't feeling
illness and
great.
other things.
Yeah.
But there was some voting that potentially would happen on minutes, so Holly's sort of reversing.
And we'll probably vote on some funding decisions as they relate to Disability Pride Month. But we do have quorum and then some, which is fantastic. Do you want to jump into some of the
Sure,
money?
okay. I can do that. This is Sheila. Before I do start on the finance, I just want to mention again, I have several people who have contacted me with interest on handing out some of the scholarships for award night. And the people I have are Polly, Harriet, Deborah, Mike, and Ingrid. So those people all separate. If there's anyone else that is interested in taking part in awarding the scholarships on scholarship night, May 29th, at 7 o'clock, to be there at 6:15 if you're a presenter, just send me an email or send it to Holly, call us, whatever, just let us know so that we can make sure that everybody has some to hand out.
Do you want to- Not anybody really wants.
Boys,
Boys, what will happen is, they'll introduce the commission. And then they will call up the students, and, if someone would like to read some of the notes. or-
Ingrid, can you mute yourself, please?
I'm sorry, I thought I was, sorry.
That's okay.
If you'd like to say a few words and give that student their scholarship, that's what we're, opening up the opportunity if someone would like to do that. Everyone is welcome to come, if you'd like to just say a few words as a member of the commission.
And we will provide both their application for review and notes on why they were selected, so. So on the finances, first, I'll just run through what we have so far on last night's game. Everybody seemed to have a good time at the game last night. And just for the financial end of it, the Red Sox game so far, we've processed payments just over $9,000. We have a payment in process for the t-shirts for another $2,800. And which is total $11,950. Remaining is some transportation costs, the green cab, T-passes. Otherwise, I think everything else is included in there. So the monthly report for our income and revenue for the disability fines fund is, let's see, our income this month was $13,715. And interest on the investments was just over $1,000. So our current balance in the fund is $248,336. But there are a few invoices that haven't cleared yet, so it's a little bit less than that.
And that's before we take out the 60 or whatever.
The scholarships, yes, but if we look at fiscal year, last year's scholarships were in this current fiscal year ending in June 2024. So those scholarships will probably end up in the summer of this year, which would be fiscal 25. So the 50,000 from last year is already included in that, but the 66,000 will probably come out in the summer is not deducted from that balance, so.
And also our event also is correct, so we're like 180.
It's probably a little less than that, we still have some more Red Sox, payments coming through, and then we'll have Disability Pride and those things, so it depends on how they run. So that is basically all of it in a nutshell, unless anyone has any questions.
Did you already say how much was added to the money?
Yes,
13,000 and some, right?
yes, $13,715 the month of April. With just over $1,000 in investment income.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So yes, it's interest rates are good. So, but that's kind of the summary of it all.
Thank you.
If anyone needs anything more, I can provide it.
And then, anything else you want to?
One of the things we talked about at prior meetings was the idea of providing transportation to our meetings. And so there's been some discussion about that, and I think I'd like members to maybe think about us having a transportation program similar to what the Council on Aging has, and perhaps initially just for these meetings, so members of the public that identify with the disability, or even members of the commission that identify with the disability are in need of transportation to get to one of our meetings, that we would provide the cost for that. Typically, we've been doing it through the green cab, but some people might need wheelchair transportation. We'd have to work it all out, but and at some point, I think we have a pretty full agenda tonight. So maybe next month, maybe people can think about it, we can talk about it and whether we want to move forward on it.
Well,
What do you think?
when we had sat down with that being, Adrian was there, we were
Yes.
there, and other staffers from finance were there. We said that it would be fine to expense members' transportation
Yes.
to get here. People who needed
Mhm.
accessible transportation or needed a way to get here, and I think that was like Uber or Lyft. And
Agree. By the cab.
and they wanted us to vote that we would use our funds towards that.
Yes, and we could do that if the commission would like to do that. We can vote perhaps
Just for our,
for members, but we might want to think about too, anyone from the public that wants to attend our meetings that are disabled and have difficulty with transportation. I mean, we could start with our membership,
okay,
if you would like to do that. Do you want to take a vote on that tonight?
does anyone have any feedback or comments or discussion pertaining to paying for rides? They would be once a month, they would be as requested, we'd have to have a mechanism, maybe something that will be on the agenda to notify people. I know, we would likely, I would prefer we tried it for sort of a test pilot and to see how it worked. Please have a seat. Harriet, I saw your hands go right up.
Oh, this is Harriet. I feel very comfortable with it. And I know it will probably take a few different steps for us to put it in order. One is to let people, well, first of all, it's easy to let our commissioners know. If you want to widen it to the public for visiting or attending these meetings, then we probably have to work out some more steps to make that more fluid and easy to manage for the resident and for us. So in a general way, I'm very positively disposed.
I think that's Brian's hand.
Yep.
Is that- Hi, Brian. Please provide some input.
Sure. Hey, this is Prime Postaway. I'm generally supportive of this idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. One thing that I would expect to see on a vote is a budget assigned to it. I don't think we should be voting on an open-ended number, that we should have a budget, vote for the budget, And if we find that we're exceeding that budget, we vote to re-up the budget.
Yes, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Brian. This is Sheila. Because we had, that was the intention when we had the conversation, was perhaps to, vote to allot $1,000 or some amount that the commission agrees on as a test pilot program type of thing, to see how it works and see if there is a need and an interest, and before we would go a little bit further with people outside the commission.
That seems to make sense.
Sorry, Brian. Does anyone else have any other comments or questions before I put it to a vote? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we fund, oh, it's only once a month.
Yes, but we can allot that dollar amount and it would just be used. And if we went over that, we would have to allot more or not use.
I'm gonna move that we allocate $500 for transportation. And we create a mechanism in which people can get that information and a mechanism through which be able to be transported and, for people who are members of the commission to come to these meetings, and or people of the public who'd like to come to these meetings who identify as disabled and would like assistance getting to our meetings.
I would second the motion.
Did you intend to include the commission members and the public? Okay,
So it's, anyone who's a member of the commission, anyone who'd like to attend one of our meetings, who is, who self-identifies as having a disability and would like assistance getting transportation to and from. I say $500.
I think that would be a fine amount. It's something we can read.
It seems high.
The demand was there, but I think that would take us quite a while.
So my motion is that we allocate $500 from our accessibility funds towards a project for transporting members of the commission and members of the public to attend our meetings with our transportation program. I hear a second.
Yes. Harriet,
Second from Harriet. Shall we vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining?
Pauline did not vote.
I did, but I didn't have a chance to open my mouth.
Oh,
I see Nick say yes. Any nays? Okay, all votes are in. The motion passes
unanimous.
unanimously. Okay. Quick segue to our guests who are here tonight. Ben, would you mind introducing yourself and the members of your team?
Yeah.
Bless you. And then you have some presentation that we can display. The materials have been sent to all of the members ahead of time. And it is at 7:20. So I'd say let's try 15 minutes and then a little time extra for Q&A, and we can see have a few more presenters.
Can we pause for 1 second so I can pull it up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're back.
We have introductions.
Yep. So hi, everyone. My name is Ben Demers. I'm an economic development planner with the city of Somerville. Thank you all for having us. I'll also ask my coworker and a member of Culture House, the design and placemaking firm that we're working with, to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly O'Loughlin. I'm also an economic development planner for the city of Somerville. I'll pass it to.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sabrina Alpino. I'm the urban researcher and designer at Culture House.
So for this presentation, we're basically going to read verbatim through the presentation that was shared ahead of time, and then we'll have some questions at the end. Please feel welcome to stop me if anybody has any difficulties hearing what I'm saying.
This is Harriet. My major question is, what is Culture House? It
Sure.
wasn't evident to me in where I read.
Do we want to start answering that?
Sure. Culture House is an urban design nonprofit. We do specialize in placemaking, doing
I'm sorry, in
activations.
placement games?
Placemaking.
Games, yeah.
Okay.
Placemaking.
Maybe you can explain that term.
Placemaking is really activating areas and making them accessible for community members. So just making environments that are open to the public.
I see.
Usually they're interactive, there are certain elements within them, but they're really open, free places for other community members to meet and congregate and such.
Great.
So shifting to the presentation, so the Economic Development Division of the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, or OSPCD, is going to be using funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, to bring temporary programming to sites that the city owns in Gilman Square.
Excuse me a second, and Sarah, can you just read it a little more slowly?
Yes. So the specific sites for activation include 350 Medford Street, known as the Homan site, and the triangular green space at the intersection of Medford Street and Pearl Street. Temporary programming will include semi-regular events in partnership with local organizations, food trucks, and passive recreational space. The city has hired a Somerville-based placemaking and design firm, Culture House, to manage the space and project. For the past month, Culture House has been meeting with local groups and canvassing to prepare neighbors for site activation. They are now working to finalize a design for base conditions of 350 Medford Street and will soon be turning to site build out from late May through early June. Their design focuses on a portion of the site along its sidewalk frontage. Regular programming is then planned to begin at the site in June and will continue through mid-September when ARPA funds must be spent. We're joined this evening by several members of Culture House's team to talk to you about the current state of the design and ask specific questions about site access. And just a quick correction, one member of Culture House's team, sorry. Although the Economic Development Division is leading the project from the city side, the project is also being supported by staff from the Engineering Division. So we have Nikki Green on the call also, and members from the Public Space and Urban Forestry team. We'll also be working with the Department of Public Works to maintain the project throughout the summer. We also want to give the disclaimer that the timeline to design this site and have it open for programming during the summer is extremely tight. So we're working to balance the need for feedback with the realities of design and build-out. Because of this timeline, some elements of this project may have changed from what was shared a week ago with the commission staff liaison in this presentation. We've tried to keep the presentation high level enough to account for these changes. We also want to note that this area will see longer term redevelopment in the coming years, but we're not focused on that process this evening. So Culture House will now discuss the overall site layout, design zones, and accessibility considerations in the process thus far before shifting to questions.
Sorry, I'm gonna ask a question. What's the date range? That's what I was just trying to understand. When do you hope to have this open and how long do you think it will be an active area?
Yeah, so the goal is to have the space open from mid-June through mid to late September. ARPA funds need to be spent by the end of September.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll note that this is Sabrina speaking. I'll also play with the design portion. We are now displaying the layout, just reiterating that we're activating two portions of 350 Medford Street, one that we're calling Gilman Park and Triangle Park. Moving on to zones, 350 Medford Street will be divided into zones based on the activity and infrastructure that supports the activity. There are 4 various zones, one being seating. Seating is area for benches, picnic tables, and standing tables. All furniture will be easy to fold and move around the site. Zone 2 will be outdoor living room. The living room space will be hammocks and patio furniture to create a space for people to hang out. Zone 3 is enclosures, a special feature with various shading options across the site to provide an interesting space to walk through and hang out. This will be using scaffolding, a scaffolding structure. And zone 4 is vending, an enclosed area for food and drink vendors. There is another layout displayed. But we can move on.
Which one?
Just the next image, which should be on the next page. Oh, this is okay. Sorry, within the presentation itself, like
This version.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, I will, let me switch up and,
sorry.
no problem.
And so describe it.
yeah, I can, do you want me to read this caption?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Just a caption describing that layout that we'll have up soon. Zone layout of the 350 Medford site. Purple shaded bubbles mark the vending area for food and beverages at one end of the site for easy access to Medford Street for loading. Orange shaded bubble marks the seating area around the food and beverage spaces. Dark green shaded bubble marks the living room space for hangout, and blue shaded area marks the large scaffolding enclosure placed in the middle of the site.
Excuse me, what does a scaffolding enclosure mean?
A scaffolding structure is,
Sounds like a jungle gym to me, but I don't think that's what it meant.
you're not wrong, you're not far to describe it, to visually think about it in that way. Think about it as like almost like a jungle gym house, like a open house, really.
Mhm.
That's the best way I think to describe.
So for example, if you had this is Harriet, outdoor dining, you might have a light fencing around at least 3 sides of that perimeter or 2 sides, so can you walk through, or would it be all just columns and cross beams and so on like that?
I think you have it correct, Harry. I think there's going to be fencing around 3 sides of the space. Of the whole lot space, and then the main entrance is through Medford Street, which will just be fully open, so you can come from each end of Medford Street.
Mhm. And it'll be roofed?
So the enclosure will provide shading. There's also a mixed use space that will provide shading. We want to have the area as shaded as possible, I guess is the best way to answer it.
Just curious, since it's build out, meaning quick build.
Yep.
What materials would you use for roofing or for
For
shade?
it would be canopy structure, like a canopy material, almost like a material that you would use, like those shaded umbrellas in picnic tables. Shading umbrellas, kind of that material.
Mhm, mhm.
Thank you for asking. Moving on to zones. Oh, sorry, we already did that. Moving on to the accessibility portion. Throughout the design process, we have been holding weekly meetings with our partners in the city, and I've been joined with various members of engineering team to weigh in. The engineering division's ADA field associate Nikki Green has been participating in weekly meetings and giving input on infrastructure and materials.
Excuse me, this is Harriet. So when you say the accessibility zone, so does that mean you've made 4 zones and one of them is particularly designed for a mobility or a wheelchair or particular things, or what?
This is Kelly speaking. I think Sabrina might have misspoke and started talking about the section as zone that was referring to the last section, and so it's not like an accessibility zone. I think we're just talking about the accessibility considerations.
Oh, yeah,
Thus
okay.
far. Yeah, so there's not like a zone that is just the accessibility zone. We're talking about accessibility considerations for the whole site.
Got
right
it,
now. Yeah.
got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to layout, within the accessibility conversation, the layout provides opportunities for play and rest. The site is designed to include designated areas for all kinds of activities, as well as prioritizing places for tables and seats. Each zone will be connected by pathways. Moving on to ground cover. The ground will be covered with bark mulch. It is a natural material that will respond best to environmental concerns of the site. We are currently in the process of designing pathways into the site plan for more accessibility.
Can I interrupt you once again? This is Harriet. One of the things that I've experienced is there's a dance venue in Western Mass, Jacob's Pillow,
Mhm.
and also Plum Island, for example. And they actually have rollout wheelchair accessible pathways that can be put on a more normal ground surface. So has that been added into? Because unfortunately, we have painful experiences. I've been living here for 40 odd years. I've been blind since I was 14. I've been working in disability professionally and as a volunteer pretty much all these 45 years. So I'm very aware that anyone with any mobility issues, whether you've got a broken leg or you've got a sprained ankle, or you are a
Nick has his
walker
hand up.
user or a wheelchair user, as nice as it is on the normal walking foot, as far as mulch and permeability, as far as rain and weather, it is not very useful.
Mhm.
And while I'm commenting on that, I also want to mention something that is often missing in parks. Is that if you have a park bench, you need a solid cement square next to it for a person who's in a chair who can then socialize, and likewise with a picnic table. All these things you probably covered, but I just thought I would bring them up as possible considerations.
So, thank you so much, Harriet.
Sure.
In regards to your, what you brought up about the pathway, mulch is, so right now, our ground cover is actually a mixed use situation, so we are gonna have mulch, but there is gonna be a paved pathway. So that will be accessible for wheelchairs, so there will be like a cement or asphalt pathway throughout the plan, then also the pathway will go through all programming areas of the site.
Just one last question. This is Harriet again. What is there a standardized width that you're making the pathways?
We're looking at 5 feet wide.
Good.
The minimum wheelchair is 3 feet and we're looking at 5.
Where does that piece come from, the minimum pathway?
It's just what we've looked up, but we've talked to ADA and they told us between 4 and 5 is the pathway we should be looking at. But if there's a conversation that we can open up now, definitely open to.
Is that Nikki Green? Is Nikki on the call?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Oh, I can't see anything because,
The way the owl doesn't work.
it's the owl, it's the way the presentation is.
We can shift to faces if easier.
Do you want me to s-
I may take the document down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Does everybody have? it?
Nick also has had his hand up for a while too.
Nick, why don't you ask your question, please?
Oh, okay. I mean, if it's easier to wait to the end, I don't mind.
No, please go right ahead.
Okay, well, this is Nick. Good evening. A couple questions. I don't know if is there detail on like what the square footage is, just because it seems like a small space? And granted, like, because would also have trucks on it and restrooms. I didn't know how much active space there was. In connection to that, would construction be going on for the teachers' parking lot or the city storage, or could we use that space? And picturing it now, I'm not sure, maybe I'm wrong. The Triangle Park is kind of like a steep hill. So what can we do on that space? But that might come later.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. So for detail on the square footage, we're still finalizing like the exact size just based on ground covering pricing. But probably will be about 8,000 to 11,000 square feet. So it's like a little under a quarter of an acre. In terms of the construction on other portions of the lot, so the teacher and staff overflow parking, which is located on the western portion of the Homans lot adjacent to the mobile station, that will remain throughout the summer. A couple spots directly adjacent to the site closest to Medford Street might be lost to allow for access of food trucks or food vendors, because the only curb cut for the site is currently into the teacher and staff overflow parking. But generally that will stay where it is. And then DPW has also reserved the back portion of the site for storage in general. So the fence line will essentially be moved back on the lot, and the back portion of the site closer to the MBTA tracks will remain DPW storage. And then on the piece on the triangular park, So you are correct. It is a very steep incline. Most of the programming is being focused on the Homans lot on 350 Medford Street, if not essentially all of the programming, and Culture House can talk more to this. I think we're thinking more with the Triangular Park as potentially an installation. So something that can be interacted with without having to actually go up that steep slope.
Well, and just while I have, will there be any sort of more attractive barrier between the public space and the public storage, the city storage space, more than like the chain link fence? Is there like a decorative something we could put up? That would be my only question. Before I have other questions.
So we are looking at it's like a faux, it's like faux vinyl, it's faux vining covers that you put on fences. So it makes it look like if there's flowers or greenery around it. We do know that it's not an attractive thing to look at, a space behind us, and then the MBTA, so we are budgeting, trying to make it as nice looking as possible, and that it gives a simulation of at least, flowers around, if that makes sense. Thank you.
We do have one final section, but Holly, I know you also.
Oh, okay. Infrastructure, moving on to infrastructure, we will be using easily movable and foldable furniture to make sure people can move and set up their areas as they are comfortable. Picnic tables will be provided in the food and beverage area that people can access on all four sides on their needs. That might be a typo. All four sides based on their needs. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, based on their needs.
Yeah, sorry about that. There will be 4 restrooms that will include 2 standard and 2 accessible stations. Trash cans will be present throughout the site.
Go ahead. Yeah, I just want, Sheila, I just want to follow up on Harriet's question about the mulch versus the walkways. So how much of the area is mulch versus how much is walkway?
Yeah, so this has been, we're still finalizing the design, and so just to mention one part of the process, like the design is being reviewed by the engineering department, and Nikki has brought up that question of sort of like, what is the ratio of the mulch covering to the asphalt or concrete asphalt? So we don't have a final ratio yet, but it's one of the main considerations in approving that final design for construction.
This is Harriet, and I have a rather bold statement to make. And that is that this administration, more than any other, is committed to equity and inclusivity. And there's a discrepancy between the ADA compliance laws and full accessibility. And often it gets cross-referenced with its costliness, So it's just not that I expect things to change overnight, they never do. But it's just to be spoken in this particular public venue that there is this significant difference between the ADA law, which was, generated 35 years ago or whatever, 34 years ago, and what makes a place really usable. So it's just to be considered, and I don't think any of us expect it to be perfect, but it's just worth expressing it, perhaps so that you all as designers and planners can keep that in mind as well. That's all. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. This has been, I do want to shout out our engineering department in this. They really go above and beyond with taking what is like the requirement what the ADA requirements are, and then what we as a city expect. So pushing things like width and material and ground coverage. So definitely have kind of seen that standard pushed by the engineering department.
I do. So this is more beyond my expertise, so Ben and team. So regarding this project, and I live around the Lincoln Park or Geziano area. That's relatively new nowadays, but getting older. I mentioned that because the material that they have there before was mulch, and they did the whole park, if you're familiar with that area, as well as the school, and it's all foam now, right? That material, I don't know how to describe it. Is the reason why we're doing the mulch opposed to that foam where it's universally more accessible is because of the finance?
So this has been, I don't know the cost of that foam material. I would assume there is a financial component, so there's a set like ARPA fund for the project. It's also given the temporary nature of the project. I think mulch was seen as like a cost-effective method for the time period. I know that in a lot of the parks throughout the city, the public space and urban forestry or PSUF team, they look to use that kind of foam material for that longer period.
Understood. Thank you.
Michael, I can't see from here. I apologize. I see your hands up. Please.
That's okay. Mike here. Other than service animals, will dogs be allowed in the park?
They will be. Yeah, they will be.
Will be?
Leashed.
The reason I agree, you said they will be?
Yes, the dog will be allowed in the park.
The reason I bring that up is, you know, I know this is a big issue in Somerville in general, where dogs run around free when they're not supposed to. And as somebody who, you know, does have anxiety, especially around dogs I don't know, or my son who had anxiety around dogs, it's such a small space that it would not be comfortable for us to be there if you're going to allow dogs to be there. So just something to think about.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that point of view up. It's something that hasn't been brought up to us, but it's definitely something that we'll think about, definitely. Thank you.
You mentioned the environmental concerns with the property. What are the environmental concerns?
Which portion has that? Sorry.
Where it's under the paragraph labeled layout. I think it's, no, sorry, the next one, ground cover. And that was the reason for the bark mulch, I think.
Yeah, this is Kelly. So the site as right now, it is a gravel, like it's a gravel lot. And so the bark mulch just kind of provides an extra layer on top of the gravel right now. We do have a licensed site professional who's consulting in on this project to verify any sort of materials that are being used are like environmentally appropriate for the area. So we're getting the insight from a licensed site professional, but I think the main concern is that right now it's this gravel. It's, you know, you don't want people running around or walking on top of the gravel. So the bark mulch is to put the covering on top of that.
So have any other material, I know someone mentioned the foam, any other materials been considered or?
Yeah, we have had a lot of conversations about the material covers. Initially turf was something that was really talked about, and then based off of community feedback, we decided to go away from that. So we've considered a ton of site covering options. Sabrina could probably go a little bit more into it.
Yeah, a bunch of covered, like turf was the main one, even actual like sod, grass sod, wood floor decking, paving the whole thing, mulch, plastic ground covers. We just have to think about, really the top things we're thinking about is accessibility and then cost. We have talked about cost a little bit. We know that that is something that can affect us a lot. So we're trying to do the mix. That's why we're doing a mixture right now of mulch and paving the pathways, because it's financially the best option for us. It hits all the boxes. And there's that environmental component too, that we're not doing something that's not as great, such as
This is Sheila again. The concern is that, you know, we recently visited a project that had a split between asphalt and wood chips, more than mulch, but mulching wood chips. And the paths were very narrow, and there was no accessibility to what you needed to get to within the wood chips. So there was a concern that when that's done, it's done with paths that are wide enough and that anything needs to be accessed is on the path and not in the chips.
But I would say that within our team, the past, like both with the city and our team internally, last week and this week, that's the conversation is making sure that any programming is accessible through the pathway. And it's not just something that you can kind of just walk by and see everything, that you can do any of the programming and any whatever's like making sure the living room is accessible through the pathway. Making sure that the hammocks are accessible through the pathway, that the
Not
vending.
allowing drinks are accessible to anybody,
Yeah,
that's a tough one,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no worries.
Is there like an alternative hammock? I don't know what they would call it, because I love hammocks, I think they're wonderful, but my family could never have used a hammock safely, and I'm sure there are other people here on the line or family members, if not themselves, that can't use a hammock. So like sort of something similar that is more accessible, something that, you know, like it literally is fixed, so you can get onto it and then you can sort of release it. Because I think part of the issue, with my experience, was trying to get onto it safely because it's a moving object. And then saying, okay, now I'm ready, and you can, now I'm ready to swing and then be able to sort of stop it again.
This is Harriet, here. The only thing that occurs to me is, down at the end of the community bike path, right by Cameron Avenue, there is a set of condominiums. And I don't know if this would be really accessible, but Holly, do you know the kind of thing where it really is just a bench, but it can move just a little bit back and forth? That might be too mobile too, but anyway, it's fixed though. It's a much smaller.
Before I answer that, I have a question that sort of ties to that. So this is gonna be, what was the budget for this project,
The budget for the overall project is 200,000.
for the whole thing?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So that includes, I mean, a lot, that
Yeah.
includes staff labor, or called the culture house staff labor, that includes materials, that includes support for programming over the 3 to 4 month period that this space will be open.
And when the program ends, what happens to all the things that are physically there?
Yeah, so this is Ben. Currently at the end of September, like we have it in the plan currently that if it's a type of material like wood or something that like should be removed, that we will plan to remove it. If there is a portion that is paved, that paving will likely stay in place, as would the mulch. So if there's any sort of like structure over it, that would probably be removed, but ground conditions such as paving or mulch would likely be left in place as we look towards longer term development of the site in the next several years.
So it would still remain built out, it just wouldn't have planned activities, correct?
Right, and
It
I
would still remain open in public.
yeah, so this is, so then I should say, like, we have spoken a bit about what the space could be long-term, and we've had some conversations with the Department of Public Works about long-term maintenance of the space. But we have been primarily focused on finalizing the design. That's something we're still thinking about, is the long-term openness.
I'm just thinking if we're putting in, you know, the fixed items, totally get, I'm not gonna pull up concrete or whatever it is, it's gonna be there, the mulch. But if there are movable items of furniture or shade areas, are those gonna be placed in other areas in the city that could use them, or will they remain there as that area after the $200,000 is spent?
Yeah, it's still been, we haven't answered that question. So it's something we can keep thinking about. Is there, I guess, do you ask that with the hope that they would be left in that
No, I'm
space?
just trying to understand, because, you know, it's, if it has a cutoff, what happens the next day? Does it just mean that the programming, the official programming ends, but the space is still there and open, which would be lovely? That's my neighborhood. My street ends right where that is, and I would love to see something there in Gilman. And I know when Ben and I spoke beforehand, I talked about how furniture that's foldable and movable isn't always great for people with disabilities or people who don't have great hand strength or can't move things around. And looking visually at the circles and the different sort of like pods, I guess you could say, of different activities. If that one particular pod that had a lot of that furniture, was, let's say it was purple and all the furniture was purple, and there was a sign that said, please return all the purple to the purple after you move it, then the purple might not land in places that people wouldn't realize end up blocking sort of a path or access to something, because you just don't realize that. No one, until you're at that level or you have that need, you wouldn't know. And if you did move it there and you saw it, you would immediately move it. So it's sort of that, like, you have to put it in someone's way to learn that there's a problem. But if there was some way literally like colorizing what we could ask you to put your purple toys back in the purple area. And literally you can make it silly and fun like that. I just thought, we want things to be movable, we want things to be foldable for all different people's needs, but just sort of, can we put it back at the end?
Of a day or whatever.
I think that, this is Kelly, I think that's a really good point, and we will have, during the activation, Culture House will have a staff member there, and so that's definitely something that we can talk about and try to facilitate, like, what the best way to get things back to their resting point, so that it is.
Yeah, I mean, you're teaching your children which toys away. Put all the purple toys back in the purple room, you leave the park for the next group. I just feel like there's a few lessons there, and instead of some angry sign that says, don't do that, I'm just like, everybody move the purple back, just. You can see a lot, you can identify a lot of things with colors and shapes. And then, Nikki, it's nice to meet you. I'm so glad you've joined, engineering. Hopefully we'll have some time to speak with you in the future. I'm sure there's lots of projects that you're working on that we have interest in as well.
Definitely, yeah, very excited.
How long have you been, with engineering?
So this is Nikki. I started in January of this year, and my background is in architecture. I've lived in Somerville since 2020, and some point in the last few years realized private architectural design wasn't for me. I wanted to be doing something more community-based, something that was giving more back to the community than it was taking.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself, and thank you very much for being here. We all appreciate that.
Yeah, welcome.
Did we talk, I know we have talked about parking. Did we talk about a drop-off area? Is that something you and I had mentioned? If there was going to be sort of like one accessible spot that was sort of temporary, wherever the teachers are parking in one area. It just really needs to be one place that you can park, because resident parking and any parking in general is a nightmare over there. And it's a very bad intersection as far as crossing the street over there. There really aren't crosswalks, and there's a lot of crazy back and forth between Medford Street and where Pearl comes out, and a lot of backup during rush hour, sometimes just one big cluster throughout the entire day. Was there any talk about sort of calming or treatments or signs or?
Yeah, so to the point of parking, so this is Ben. We are working with the parking department to change one of the parking spots. So I should give the context. There's no parking on the south side of Medford Street, which is the side adjacent to the parcel, to the Holman's lot specifically. And the teacher and staff overflow parking area remains unpaved. So we can't have an accessible spot located there. So we are working with parking and identified a site directly across the street. So that site will be designated as accessible we need to finalize the hours, but during a set large portion of the day when programming is happening, for the duration of the program, somebody will still need to, if they want to use a crosswalk, they will still need to go to the intersection of School and Medford Streets and cross there, and then they'll be able to access the site past the mobile station.
So we're gonna have a park without a crosswalk to it in a pretty crazy intersection there.
So correct. We've talked about crosswalks
It's
and.
not your fault, it's the environment, so please don't.
No.
Don't,
No.
I don't mean to imply that at all, that's a really hard spot, to be a pedestrian.
Agreed. And yeah, the idea for a crosswalk has been brought up at that like for the east portion along like across Medford Street at the intersection of Medford and Pearl. But when we spoke with our mobility team, it wasn't feasible at the time. We can go back and continue the conversation since we have gotten this feedback.
Even though it's my neighborhood, I'm literally trying to think of myself standing in that spot and what it's like, because
Yeah.
I'm usually the person driving through who can't move. But that would be nice.
So where would the accessible parking be?
Yeah, so it's if you think of where the curb cut into the site, into like the teacher and staff parking is, it's directly across the street. So there's the Good Gas station there on the
Right,
north side,
yeah.
and it's essentially directly west of there,
And how many spaces will there be?
just one spot.
Just one.
And would the individual have to then cross the parking lot to get into the park?
So the individual would need to go, there's I don't know the exact square footage, but or the exact distance, but they'll need to go to the crosswalk at the intersection of Medford and Pearl Street, and that's where they would cross the sidewalk, or that's where they would cross the street, and then they would take the sidewalk to the entrance of the site, so they'd have to pass the mobile station and the teacher parking. I can get a more like definitive distance there.
I circled it on the layout for NFP.
There, so I should add, when we went with the director of parking, there are no spots that are closer. So that is, yeah, so obviously there are still frustrations with the distance and how someone would have to pass there, but those are the closest.
It's a lot of
spots.
bike lane on that side, that's closest to homelands.
Is there a bike lane
On the side of Homer's there is.
there? Right, yes, okay,
There's just no parking. That's all.
right, that's why.
This is Kelly. I think this is really good feedback for us to talk with the mobility team. We brought it up at kind of at the beginning when we were starting this project, but I think even just any traffic calming measures that we can implement, we will take that back to mobility.
And
Do you have to have an official, Brian, do we have to have an official crosswalk and full setting to have one of those like push buttons to sort of flash and say someone wants to cross?
Yeah, this is Brian Postway. For those who are new, I'm both on the commission and I also serve as the city's director of engineering. So responding as director of engineering in this case, for us to install a crosswalk outside of an intersection, it is a multi-month, sometimes a multi-year process to do all the studies that we need to do to design a mid-block, what's called a mid-block crossing, so that all of the safety components are properly designed.
Thanks, Brian. I see Crystal has her hand up too.
Hi, this is Crystal. Would this become the closest accessible parking spot to that T station?
Imagine.
this has been, I don't know the answer to that.
Because I think that's relevant in terms of how that intersection is going to go.
So they don't have any other T station accessible spaces? No, that's not really tough geography wise too. It's very steep. It's very.
There are a couple of accessible spots at the top of School Street in Highland, but it still involves a downhill descent to the T station.
What about sort of a temporary loading, unloading spot that could be marked off, like literally like a couple of cones if there's a big event going on or something? You know, kind of.
Yeah, I think that would also have to include mobility because that would affect the bike lane, correct?
This has been probably,
Yeah.
Just an option, if it's only a couple of months, and if there's 5 times that we're expecting large groups, maybe we could just consider when we put those through, where would we put a loading and unloading zone for anyone?
yeah.
We
Uh,
recognize it's a really short schedule. It's a small budget. It is wonderful that there's any budget for something. I personally am very happy that there's budget for something. But just any creative ways that we can find a safety for an area where there isn't real crosswalk or pedestrian lines and, you know, people go pretty quick coming down that hill, off the bike path.
Yeah, this has been, if there's one other thing I can add, part of what was really helpful in Culture House's thinking with having the two sites, and I know this doesn't really solve all the problems of access to the Homans lot, but part of why we've really honed in on the Homans lot rather than trying to do programming on both spaces. It is both the slant of the triangular park, but also the fact that we don't really want to be encouraging people to cross the street there because we weren't able to get the crosswalk put in place. And the Homans lot does still offer such a large space to do programming. So that was a call that Culture House helped us make early on.
So if we'd like to have an event there in July, can we work with you to do that as the commission to have an event in that space?
We, the community manager, Rishika, we can give you her email and she's helping manage all the programming for that.
Great. That's one thing that we're gonna discuss tonight is what events we want to host in July, which is Disability Pride Month.
Yeah.
And I think it would be fantastic if we could do something in this new space.
Definitely.
This is Harriet, one possible solution if it's for a specific event, is let's say over a 3-hour, 4-hour period. I wonder if we could get cooperation from the PD or whoever, it could be like a crossing guard, so that we wouldn't completely hamper the cyclists, but we also would not hamper the safety of pedestrians crossing. And, you know, for a specific event. Now, obviously, this is a long-standing and unfortunately never arbitrated problem between people with disabilities and cyclists. And we've made some errors, which who knows how we're going to arbitrate, but I have faith in us as good people to talk things over, but I think there are solutions, in other words, especially for a specific time and place. I'll just put it out as something to consider. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Comments, feedback?
So at what point in the project would you have a layout where it showed the the pathways and the areas and how much space there would be?
Yeah, I think our goal is to be finalizing a layout next week. I'm gonna say optimistically, we're with incorporating feedback, but the timeline got pushed back a little bit, but our hope is to have something next week that we're submitting to engineering and inspectional services for their approval. So that Culture House can move forward with the build out of the space.
Well, thank you for being brave
And patient with us.
No, thank you all.
and listening to our concerns and thoughts and ideas. We really appreciate having the voice
Yeah.
in your time,
Thank you.
especially on a Tuesday night. So thank you all.
Of course, thank you all.
Any questions for us before we go?
We do have questions.
We do have questions, but I also know that we wanted to keep it to like a set.
But just
Questions?
questions.
Yeah, well, I guess, so I know you mentioned that you would be interested in hosting an event, but curious if there are any other specific ways you would like to see the space programmed or any specific organizations that you recommend trying to partner with?
To partner with that would
That would bring programming to the site. So
be outside of Culture House or just with,
in partnership with,
In partnership
so
with.
Culture House is helping to facilitate partner organizations bringing programming to the event.
I'm sure there are, but it may not come to mind this very second.
That's okay. There's,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's involved.
there's time.
What other questions can we answer for you?
Other questions?
I guess the main other one that we haven't talked about is like, are there specific events that have, where programming has felt particularly accessible to you? Those where it is not? I think many of you have reflected on this just in your comments, but if anything stands out.
Well, I was gonna mention Porch Fest and how that's. That's
Yeah.
That's very well.
So Porch Fest, amazing program. Don't laugh. And I was looking at the heat map and seeing where everybody's located and how we phased it into time sections, and then you can click, you can see blue, yellow, red, and then black dots, and black dots are the bathrooms or porta potties. How many bands are there roughly?
There was a little close to 400, right? Over 300.
There are about 25 porta potties mentioned on the map. And so I was like, oh, where are they? Where are they? Because I know some friends who have people who are out drinking, whatever they need to be drinking, lots of water for multiple hours. They need to use the restroom. And we have these 20 or 30 odd porta potties, which is not enough. And I thought, wow, how did they decide where to put them? Didn't look like anything was really added. They were existing in parks. And I don't know if any of them are actually accessible.
Yeah.
I was happy to see that you had 2 standard porta potties and 2 accessible porta potties. In my perfect world, everything is just an accessible porta potty and nobody has to wait for the other person or feel guilty if they're in the one that was open and not open. It's my whole social idea of an accessible bathroom stall in general in the ladies' room, but how do things like that, I mean, how does your group interact with decisions? I mean, there's a little bit of a health concern there with people in the city and being able to use a bathroom, let alone an accessible bathroom.
So,
Porch Fest.
this is Ben, sorry, I'm talking a lot also, so please, yeah. Do you mean for Porch Fest or for this site?
For Porch Fest, or just in general.
Yeah, I don't know oh, sorry.
So the way it works for city events, as much as this is Adrian, as much as I understand it, as part of the order from whatever department is putting on the event, they have to do their very best to guess how many, first, we do use existing porta potties because they're there, and that's helpful for numbers. And then also location, because having them already in certain parks sort of takes them off the sidewalk and the streets, and that makes it easier. If an event, so if a department, whoever's running the event, so in this case, the Arts Council does Porch Fest, if they feel they want more porta potties, then they have to put that as part of their bigger sort of work order for the event. I don't know if Gregory ordered any additional porta potties for Porch Fest. But that's where that happens. That's a conversation between the department and DPW as part of that request.
And did they not like talk to you as the AGA coordinator and or Nikki, who is in that department, to come up with a kind of a solution to it?
So I'm hearing a couple of things. One, there's not enough in general, but I'm also hearing that it was observed that there weren't enough ADA ones at Porch Fest. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's something I can definitely take back. I know when I am able to be in those meetings that we always make sure there are ADA ones, like we're having the same conversation for the Veterans Parade, that the Memorial Day Parade that is approaching. So again, it's a pretty easy lift because we say for every whatever porta potty we want, 2 accessible ones at this location or wherever. I did not see a layout beforehand of porta potties for Porch Fest.
Well, the ones in the park.
They were already existing. I
Okay.
don't think,
I
unless
expect
the new
that
ones.
that some of those are accessible, the ones in the park.
They should be. It's my understanding they should be if they're in parks, but I can double check with DPW. But that's sort of a conversation between whatever department is running the event or spearheading the event and DPW to make sure, to order them from the vendor so they can be placed in, in an adequate amount of time. I think Porch Fest is just, I think it gets more and more crowded every year. I think there's a special draw this year because a well-known band approached a resident about playing on their porch, so that was a bigger draw. They have New England ties.
I think the issue is more about knowing there's 400 bands and 20 porta potties.
Right.
It's really hard numbers.
Yeah, so I can pass that on to Gregory and DPW. So that's where we can start that conversation.
Thank you.
They did real well with the trash cans.
The trash cans, we always seem to have trash cans, which is also very important to Porch West.
It's really good.
Yeah,
And it was a great event.
I'm one of those residents. I did it once and I just do it once. I haven't.
She was. Oh my gosh.
I'm a once and I'm good.
Thank you all for being here.
Yeah.
And we
Thank
told
you,
you. were
Nikki. It's
quick.
very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome to
Taking
stay.
notes and really appreciate everything, all the feedback that y'all have, very, very good stuff. So thank you, and thank you everyone online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Holly,
Hey.
can, before we move on to the next item, I would like to take a moment to give Nikki a proper introduction.
Oh,
That would be lovely.
Love it.
So, there seems to be some echo going on. Is that, do you all hear it in there?
Now, do you have two machines on, Ryan?
I do not.
Is everyone else on mute?
everyone else is on. Yep.
Okay, I didn't know if anybody else there had a machine on. So just real briefly, because Nikki kind of had to introduce herself in the middle of a presentation, which was kind of awkward. Nikki was hired this past winter as part of a new position that the administration approved for the engineering division for the last budget cycle at the end of last spring for a new ADA field associate. And their role is predominantly in the engineering division is to review outdoor seating, street occupancy permits, site plan reviews for engineering construction and street occupancies to confirm ADA compliance for both permanent and temporary construction in the city. She came in and helped at Economic Development's request to provide some guidance and insight during their design process. But one thing I think that is important for the commission to understand is that the development that they're doing, the work that they're doing at the Homan site will go through a formal review process that is separate from the process that they're going through right now. So engineering division for all projects like this does a separate review process for ADA accessibility, for stormwater control, for public safety, etc. And Nikki is part of our team that does that. In addition, her role is to inspect and investigate or inspect projects that were permitted through us, but also investigate claims and complaints that are made regarding ADA concerns throughout the city. So when an ADA concern comes in regarding the general street network, Nikki is who helps us assess those complaints and review them. I think Nikki, she did a really great job introducing herself, but I wanted the commission to understand what her role is in the engineering division and how she engages with these projects.
Thank you, thank you.
It's exciting to know you were here.
Yes, very.
Yes. And you'll probably see Nikki more often, especially as different projects come forward or particular issues come up. So as an example, when we were doing our 5-year street plan this year, Nikki was very instrumental in helping us combine the ADA transition plan work with our 5-year street plan so that we can better combine those two efforts together.
I think we should talk about that a little bit more. But that's all great news.
Yeah, I'm hoping the 5-year plan is approved shortly and we can publish it. And when that happens, I would be happy to come back and speak on that behalf as the engineering director as opposed to just a member.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nikki, do you have anything you want to add?
No, Nikki here. That was very concise and correct.
Okay, great. Thank you all.
I mean, if I may say, anybody with pink hair is okay by me.
What? What?
Up to you.
Nikki has pink hair.
She has beautiful pink hair.
Oh, you got it.
Sorry, Harriet. This was
Oh,
mine.
almost.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
That's okay.
I had forgotten, Mrs. Harriet, to ask people to describe themselves. You reminded them.
Disability Pride Month. Yes. So I took my cryptic notes that were all over the whiteboard and boiled them down into categories and.
Holly, I'm sorry, can I turn on the air conditioner for a minute?
Yes, please. There's
Yeah.
also a fan, just put the fan down.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. I know it's loud.
Do not, y'all just gonna have to talk louder so I can hear.
It's steamy in here.
It is.
And slowly, please. Is that the lowest band?
Yes, ma'am, that is the lowest setting. Okay, so we have, do we have a date for, Laurie Grant?
Yes,
That's separate than the 27th, right?
29th. She's the 29th.
Okay.
So she's the 29th.
At
the main line?
West Branch. And the 20s, this is Harriet, the 27th, we're working on for young people's books and book readings. It isn't filled out as yet, but that's on a Saturday morning, I think.
Is that at the library as well, Harriet?
Oh, so sorry, this is Mike. It's Laura and me who's gonna be speaking that night. I don't know if you said that. It
Yes,
wasn't
that's,
just,
I wanted to clarify.
yeah,
oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Frank.
Laura Borensky, right?
Laura,
Not
yeah.
Lori Brandt, who's,
Oh, my
has another.
She's the, yeah, Lorenz.
I'm very sorry.
Laura Moreski and Michael.
And then hopefully we can confirm the flag raising next week.
We have a date, an estimated date yet?
But when, if we get that Denise in that conversation, that will be easy. She knows the mayor's schedule.
You said next week, this is Harriet.
No, next week to meet with Denise Taylor,
Oh, yes.
who's the director of communications.
Okay, so my high level takeaways from our conversation were specific themes, honor, inclusion, celebration, history, using the colors of the Disability Pride flag and what they represent in our overall overarching programming and themes throughout the month. Frank's wearing his shirt from last night from the Red Sox event, and what we did was we took the Disability Pride flag logo, flag, and we cut it into a heart. And I think we should use that as our branding for these types of events, but also as a commission. We got a lot of great feedback about the shirts that everyone had on last night. People are very happy that it said Somerville on the back.
Oh, I didn't realize it's.
Would you like to model?
Oh, very nice.
There it
Said
is.
what on the back?
It's a Somerville Disability Pride, May 13th,
Oh.
2020.
Oh, okay.
And it's just a blue shirt with Red Sox in the front. The other things that we talked about as far as projects were being visible in the community, at work, at school. Utilizing the local press resources to us, doing some community outreach, mailings to collect feedback on needs and suggestions. Actually, I should put that aside for a second and let Deborah talk about that if she'd like to also. There were thoughts of that We should be including able persons and activities with disabled persons. We should be sharing advocacy resources and looking into things. We talked about the library and art projects. One big thing that I keep hearing every time I research this is to tell your story. So to stand up and tell your story, and things that we could also be engaged in, not just in July, but as a commission included, actually was hosting a Paralympics games event, actually watching the Paralympics.
Which is in August?
It
Yeah,
was July.
no,
July into August, was August.
it's August or September. The non-Paralympics are July.
Also, Best Buddies and looking into having a Challenger League baseball league in Somerville that Nick's volunteering to run.
He came, right? Wow.
Just seeing if you are engaged. Cause I know you always are.
Yeah, of course.
Wow. He came, that was not even a second. That's impressive.
And then there was something about the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative. I'm not sure from the visual who brought that up or what the thoughts were around the intersection or how we would engage with that group throughout some activities in July. And I have 4 or 5. So we had a lot of continuity in our thoughts. We had a lot of things that worked very well together. And I summarized them into 5 different opportunities. The first one is a community art celebration. And that can be both visual, auditory, and tactile. And it should involve things like music, art, expression, photography, history, talking about disability future. And that can be for all different ages and targeting different populations. Like, I really would like us to do something specifically with and for our veteran community. The piece about the other opportunity, having the flag raising at City Hall with the mayor. You know, you're gonna work on some dates to confirm in July.
Yeah, we can probably do
Sorry,
it.
I'm
next week.
pointing to Adrian. And then a movie, posting our own movie. Mike, did you, I know when we spoke with Miss Combs, Harriet and Stan.
Oh, Denise.
Denise Taylor. Denise said you were speaking with the gentleman about the Somerville Movie Festival.
I did, and he had responded back saying that the movie wasn't available. I reached out to him and said, are there any other movies? I sent him a whole list of other possibilities from the list that we had come up with, and I haven't heard back from him. I reached out to Greg. So what Ingrid and I were kind of bantering back and forth was maybe have our own at the library and just show it, if we can somehow, show whatever movie we want and not even deal with them.
We can also do both, but I'm surprised you haven't heard back about that because Ms. Taylor was saying how he was researching other films to offer you to choose from, so.
Oh,
we'll-
yeah, I haven't heard back.
So maybe that's a question you can ask her next week.
But I agree, we should host our own, and if we can help influence whatever's going on at that festival to also have the connection to disabilities, that would be fantastic. And thank you for keeping track of movie ideas and suggestions. We appreciate that very much. We also, bless you. So the library events, there are 2 on Saturday, the 27th. We will have an opportunity for multiple types of programming, indoors, outdoors. We may be able to have authors there of certain books. We may be able to have, arts and crafts activities, either inside or outside. There's that beautiful like garden area in the back. So we were looking at ordering supplies, things like rocks of different sizes and shapes that could be painted with messages. They could create actual, like a garden area somewhere at the library or in another park. We could see about where they could be placed. They could have messaging or words or things that kids or people are reflecting on that, that relate to Disability Pride Month. We talked about friendship bracelets and we did a lot of research. There's a whole lot of different friendship bracelets. There's beads, there's ones that are woven, there's quite a bit. And I think we should offer different types of bracelets for people who may not be able to use fine motor skills or may choose to use something that's a different way of creating a bracelet. And we had talked about having sort of like how I envisioned it. It was a long piece of paper or a continuous something where kids could or people could start to create a story and the next person can come and add to it. I remember whose idea it was. I don't remember if it was like the width of this table or poster board or narrower, but those are the types of things.
My battery is not gonna make it through again.
I offered you to swap out your laptop for
IT won't let me do that. Can everybody still hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
okay.
There we
Next
go.
time we- oh, let's see.
It's not gonna be on the screen. You're gonna have to
Okay.
look here.
But we're okay battery wise.
So because I'm now charging my batteries, but we sacrificed the screen and the owl has been let go for the evening. That's how.
That's okay. Okay, that's fine.
So I will talk to IT because I think what's happening is the battery is getting overwhelmed with having to run the owl and Zoom.
It's the owl. That's what it's.
I think the owl really drains the battery. And so there's no way. And I'll have to see what the tab building looks like. If there's a way to figure out to have both going, then I can simultaneously keep my battery charged and run the owl, if that makes sense.
Okay. Just some battery issues here. We're up and going still. We also did have some brief conversations about getting a quote table at Art Beat, which is in July. Or looking at Summer Street or which is another way we can partner with something that already exists, so we don't have to recreate the magic. We can kind of already have something that's built and so I know that Steven said he would put in applications. I think it was for Art Beat. Adrian. We can double check on that. If he hasn't already.
You wanted the one in July? Or does it matter?
Well, Art Beat,
Art Beats in July.
yeah, I think it's 13th maybe.
What would be the other?
So Summer Streets goes, I think, from July through October.
I think it might start in June. I think July is the month I don't have it maybe because it's Art Beat. I don't know. When it was a while ago.
It's like Summer Streets Art Beat or something, but something like that. I think they do Carnival in June, so they probably don't. That's Summer
Yes.
Streets technically, not really, but
Oh, Summer Streets is considered the series of events.
I think
not
it
an
is.
Individual event.
and I'm not sure Carnival is branded with Summer Streets because it's very much rooted in the East Somerville neighborhood. I will tell you that having a table at Carnival is very, not that it's difficult, lots of people have tables, but the conversations get very hard because there's a lot going on.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Like RSA tried to have a table last year and we had a table, but we couldn't talk to anybody because
Ah, cool. It's too loud.
it was too loud, which is what Carnival is.
So I think my thought is to, spread it wide, cast a wide net to see what we can actually get time at. Having tables at city events is important for many reasons. And we do have, hopefully we'll have a call next week with comms to talk about some of the things that tie into this, whether they be the publicity, the movie, and then exhibiting at these other events. What I need help with is people that can commit to the 27th of July, the 29th of July. Those are 2 days at the library, not the entire day, but just if able to make some time to be at the event, to help staff the event. You can let me know later.
Which library?
Westbridge.
West Davis. And then what I really need is a few people who'd like to help with the July 29th event. Because we're gonna need to order supplies, we're gonna sort of have to have a plan, we're gonna have to sort of frame it in. Are we gonna have 3 things throughout the day, 3 different things, one's for kids, one's for adults, and then maybe the third one is for caregivers or parents or family members of people with disability, of persons with
I think
disabilities.
you meant the 27th. I think you said the 29th, right?
Yeah, so the 27th is what I'm talking about, and the 29th is Laura and Mike.
Yeah, and that's evening. That's.
Yep, and we're gonna be there to support them at that evening. But and you can let me know later, I'm gonna be begging for helping hands so that we can get some materials together. I think we don't have to worry about we might need supplies for the flag raising. I'd like us to also provide books, so any of the books that we're either reading or discussing, I think we should offer them out to our guests.
You mean like to show the exhibit lines, right?
No, come to the library, go home with a book.
Oh, wow, okay.
You mean for the children or in general? I certainly think we should have children's books, but I also think we should have adult books. And, Ingrid's shared a lot about what it's like to have good information and stories and materials for new diagnoses, trying to find information about autism and knowing what was a good story, what was a good resource. So I think if the third part of that day was more educational for people about disabilities or specific disabilities. And again, this isn't the Holly show. We really need to together sort of define what this will look like. That would be the best for that. So we have the library, the movie, the flag event, and then we had a community arts celebration. That was the last piece here, and I have no idea, maybe that could actually be it.
Ollie and team, pardon me, it's Joe, I'll be heading out.
I am so.
Thank you, Joe.
So look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Yes.
Yeah, and also,
If I gave you the floor, would you be able to stay for a few more minutes?
Sure, if I need to do that, it's up to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Give me 2 seconds.
can you turn off the AC for just a little?
Sure. Joe, would you give us just share some information about what you do, how, we had some nice conversations. It started with the disability pride events at Fenway last night. It was wonderful to meet you and your boys. It's gentlemen. No,
always.
they're just
Thank
lovely, they're lovely. And you shared with me some projects that happen right now with the commission as far as Harriet helped me because you had this
Oh,
conversation.
the internship at Mass.
Yeah,
Commission.
yeah.
Yeah, that, lovely to hear. And I remember a little bit of what you said, like young people who are seniors and above, right? For
Yes.
internship for the
Yep.
summer.
Mhm.
And then at 1:15, I'll just finish out the rest of the meeting, but if you would love to share with us, Harriet would love to share that part of the discussion.
Yeah, and also you and I can continue to discuss it too. Yeah, so tell us a little more about the internship.
Sure,
possibility.
Joe here, and Harriet, I know you're gonna be in conversation with my associate Carol.
Oh,
So
yeah.
on a very high level, I'll just kind of give the down and dirty version, if you will, regarding kind of what I do, how we can potentially collaborate personally or professionally, and how I, as I mentioned earlier, kind of bring value to this group. And I heard something about baseball earlier, so there's another thing there. I'll digress just a tad. There's blind baseball that you may have heard, beat baseball, and there's two. For those that were at the event yesterday, right? So I play on the Renegades. I'm a former Renegade, and I'm very active with the Boston Strong that's new. So if Somerville Commission does anything like that for exposure, for kind of diversity in terms of people who are active and athletic and want to participate in different things, we can expose the youth as well as all walks of life about blind baseball and how that works, okay? But in terms of the internship, right? I'm preaching to convert it to everybody here. I'm sure at some point in their lives, they had done some volunteer work, internship, mentoring, shadowing, you name it. So at the Commission for the Blind, one of our premier programs is our internship program, which I'm a past graduate of it. Many moons ago in the early 2000s, I participated as a young man and did an internship through the Commission for the Blind. So essentially, it's very straightforward. The only difference of this robust internship is that the Commonwealth and the Commission for the Blind pays the intern. That's number one. Number two, really, we provide the candidates. We want to make sure it's a realistic experience where this is completely hypothetical. We're planting seeds here, and whether it blossoms this week or months or years to come, we would present anyone who's potentially hosting an intern with one resume, two resumes, and then you could either interview one, none, or both to make it a competitive process. And the beauty of it is, though, if you interview them, then we can kind of get this constructive feedback. If in fact they don't do a good job, right? Because they're unquote volunteers or interns. We pay them a stipend. It's $1,000, 500 in the beginning and 500 at the end. We bookend that with an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony. We have an agreement, a timesheet, an evaluation, right? That silly documentation that we all need to do, as well as have them come to soft skills training, right? Kind of working on those interpersonal skills. So for you, Harriet, and for others, that I'm wearing kind of a light pink suit. I'm kind of overdressed today, right? But the reason why I did that is because I didn't know who was going to be in the room, what the expectations were, and all of those things. So we have the college students, high school students, and of course, even mature adults that perhaps lost their vision later in life. For example, I lost my vision at the raw age of 16. So we have the interns kind of do that. It's virtual. It's one day. Actually, that's tomorrow. All right, we have that tomorrow, and we have about 60 interns across the Commonwealth, but we start this process in November. And the reason why we do that is a lot of individuals are in college break or on holidays or what have you, because then our staff meets with that intern, right? Or that student or that adult. How much can they see? What school do they go to? What's their family dynamics? What's their mobility? We talked about mobility earlier with Ben and team. What's their assistive technology? Are they a touch typist? We really want to know that, right? We work with their case managers to figure out who they are, what they do, what they're inspiring to do, and then who are our friends in the community. So this has been a long time. This program has been well established. We've partnered with municipalities, other state and local government agencies, nonprofit, for-profit, you name it, just to name a few: State Street, Rockland Trust, to hit home here, CHA, Cambridge South Alliance, Somerville Hospital has hosted an intern, Somerville High has hosted an intern. We considered the idea of City Hall doing it, but we have to have the right candidate, the right department, the right commission, all of those things. Other organizations that's kind of similar to this, Quincy City Hall has partnered, Rentham Town Hall, and the list goes on. So I want to pause because that's a lot to digest, and I want to see if there was any comments or questions or additional thoughts. And what I'm going to do, I'm having Carol Collins, my team member, kind of speak to Holly, or Holly will have us speak to you, Harriet,
Yes,
and all that
actually,
too.
yeah, we actually have a date.
Fantastic.
You and I are going to connect on Friday.
Tell me about your voicemail. You're a singer, I heard. So. But yeah, any thoughts, any questions? Love to field them. If not, again, this won't be the last time you see me, but I want to give my pitch in terms of about a possible partnership. But again, how can I potentially be a part of this process, whether it be high, low, or everything in between?
Thank you. This is Harry, I really appreciate that.
Pleasure's mine.
Pauline has a question.
Is this a one-on-one thing with clients or what? I don't quite get what this is.
Yeah, let me tell you more. So essentially say there is because there are individuals who are in Somerville who are students, right? Or adults that are looking to get into the work field or build their resume or whatever regarding real world of work. And so they come to Employment Services, which is one of the units I oversee. And they work, I know you're familiar with the Commission for the Blind in your days, right? So they work with a VR counselor, case manager.
Yeah. Oh,
So then
yeah.
that student would be referred to our team. And then what we try to do is vet them and then try to match them with a current partner that the Commission for the Blind has, or develop new relationships in the community, in the entire Commonwealth, in hopes that they gain a rich experience rather, so they can build upon that and eventually
So-
get gainful employment.
These people are blind as well. In other words, they're blind folks helping other blind folks, right?
Yes and no, in the sense that the interns are all visually impaired because they're coming from the Commission for the Blind,
Okay,
but that could be totally blind. That could be someone, as you know, that is on pretty much on the border and doesn't use a cane and can use magnification. However, then the employer, right, or the organization that's hosting the intern, that company who's supervising the intern may have blindness, maybe no diversity at all in terms of disability, so it could be anything. Does that answer your question, hopefully?
yeah, sort of.
So for example, say Holly's gonna host an intern. She's taking an intern from the Commission for the Blind, a volunteer. And that student just coincidentally resides in Somerville. And then Holly and your team, or whoever or Harriet, would be supervising that individual and providing a summer experience. Because this internship is basically it's just basically helping a person get a summer job like at Market Basket or Star Market
Okay.
or at the YMCA, or I know the City Hall. They have an internship program themselves. So hopefully that gives you something to marinate on, but I'd love to expand on that in the future. Other questions or thoughts? Because I want to be respectful of people's time, of course.
Thank you. I think this is Harriet. I think you did a great job of kind of laying it out for us. And it'll be wonderful. As soon as I have a chance to have a longer discussion with Carol on Friday, then I can report back to our
Exactly.
group here.
Wonderful.
Right.
You guys are making it easy on me. That's it. I know it's later in the night.
I mean, it's a wonderful project, and I think that between yourself and Harriet, understanding what would be involved and how we could partner with you, what types of an experience someone in your summer program could get from working on a project or a task with the commission.
Perfect.
One quick question, Joe,
Yes.
Sheila. The stipend you talk about, is that paid by whoever they're employed with, or is it from the commission?
Yeah, great inquiry. The beauty is from us. Because we don't want the organization to then in turn have to pay them or liability and all of those things that we know all about. So that we encumber all of that. And we do that strategically, of course.
Great.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank
Got it.
you. How long you for a long time? You probably got more than you needed to get from us as far as the evening.
No, I strategically was coming here no matter what, just to get a feel of the team, kind of the agenda and all those things. So you guys are doing a great job, and thank you personally and professionally for that.
Oh, you
All right.
Thank you.
All right, all. Take care.
I think the pink suit was the perfect for us.
Trying to bring spring, right? It was a beautiful
Yeah.
day.
Just brought-
Can I get the door for you, Joe, or you
I'm
good?
all set.
All right.
Take care now.
So, I'm gonna motion that we vote on a budget for the month of July for disability pride events, which would include costs for art supplies, books to give out at events. I don't think, have you already ordered the flags, Adrian?
The flags will come from Amazon.
But I mean, they'll come from RSJ's budget.
Yes,
From our budget.
I think RSA.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not a reflective.
And the city likes to have 2 or 3 on hand
We would love that.
because
Love to have, what did you
flags
say?
get damaged.
What did I say? Everywhere there are pride flags.
Yeah, we were talking on the way in about pride flags, which you see everywhere now, which is wonderful. but
So
it took-
there for the pride, excuse me, for the pride flag, they put one. HHS isn't housed there anymore, but they put one on the Broadway building.
You mean, what was the scene? It was a scene.
Yeah, the old senior center,
firehouse,
yeah.
Mhm.
The old firehouse, then there was one on City Hall, but they only had 2, so we had to take the one off City Hall, so they could put it in the file. Bit of a mess.
Little flag shuffle.
Little flag shuffle in the moment. So we could potentially talk about, because our Shebe at that point will be housed at the Tab building, but I don't know if the Tab building puts flags on their buildings. That would be it.
Could we also get one like for, because maybe it wouldn't be as big as the one they hang on the building, but so say we have a table somewhere that we could have in the front of the table.
Mhm. And you all are also, and it's a conversation you probably want to have with Hawken about logo and stuff like that, but there's probably room in the budget. And we've been talking, I know Latoya's been talking about this with the other commissions of commissions getting like tablecloths. So when you do table, you have a tablecloth that has commission for persons with disabilities and whatever the logo is. So you're not, the RSA logo is nice. We're really proud of it, but that's not your logo.
So my initial thought was that we budget $3,000 to go towards supplies and discuss that tonight. And then in June, we're gonna have an update on where we are in our budgeting events, and we'll, in whatever groups are sort of moving each of these projects forward, would have to give a report then, just so we make sure that we're aligned up with our funding and where our funds are being spent. Do you have a question, Mario?
So let me see if I heard you correctly. You said that, let's turn the AC back on, I'm getting too hot.
I've got a little one.
You're saying, yeah, we have a preliminary budget of $3,000 for our events in July for supplies and so on.
Yes,
And then we'll revisit that in June, I would think, to make sure it's adequate and.
yes,
And confirm what we're up to?
yes,
Is that
yes,
accurate?
that is accurate.
Well, then I would like to make a motion. Oh, first, any discussion?
Is that a hand raise?
Ingrid's had her hand up for a while, so I wasn't sure what it was regarding, but.
Unmute if you want to talk.
Can you unmute
She's
Ingrid?
working on it. I
Oh,
see
she's
her
working.
hand. She's gonna make it happen.
There
I'm
it is.
sorry. Chaos happening. No, I was gonna say something previously about the library, but it's not. It's okay. It's not really important. I was just gonna say that about the library, that like, yes, having books to help you help you with your child's disability is great, but also books that explain your disability to our children was the other thing I was thinking of, because I found that very challenging until I found a book from another mom. It's hard to explain to adults. So that was just the only other element I had when we were talking about books.
So you've already volunteered your time unofficially to help with that project.
Yes, I'm excited.
Cool, great, thank you.
Yeah, the Somerville Learning Collaborative piece that you probably have written down is because that was the contact that I have that blasted out the email about the disability night, but who's donating her large collection of disability books in all realms to the West Library.
Is that on a certain night that there's an event for that, or that?
There's not an event for that, but they're just, I spoke to the librarian there, Allison, in the children's department, and she was telling me that by July, they will have them added to the category, or added to the catalog, whatever, in the computer.
Okay.
So it would just coincide nicely to be able to showcase books, and yeah, that's all.
So is there any more discussion before we put this to a vote?
So I'm trying to understand the motion. So this
So
is,
the motion is to budget $3,000 of our accessibility funds towards the cost of supplies for the events in July that we'll be hosting, which would include arts and crafts, it might include some signage,
And books.
and
But you might want to make a motion somewhere and just have it, disability Pride Month expenses.
so I'm gonna make a motion that we allocate $3,000 for Disability Pride Month expenses. May I have a second who isn't second? Oh, Pauline is my second. I have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Or is that a Brian hand or a?
Well, it's a thumbs up.
Oh, thumbs up. Okay, motion passes. 8,000.
You didn't bring your gavel?
I don't know. You think I'd carry that everywhere, wouldn't you?
I would,
I used to keep it in my car, but now that I walk here, that's the problem.
but then you'd be the strange lady walking on the street with a gavel.
Could be used for that today. I keep it in my car. Okay, so
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 long minutes.
Where's the ice cream and cookies and, you know.
Okay, we talked about porch fest, we talked about porta potty, it's for training and education. Okay. Who would be the resource for education and training, Adrian? You know, we talked about,
Sorry,
you got a sour one, didn't you?
I got cherry, which is not my favorite flavor,
We're enjoying Jolly
but
Rancher.
we're not wasting, so we're gonna eat it.
Helen had asked us to provide books on Robert's rules. And then we had talked a couple of times about different training or education needs
Around Robert's rules.
around Robert's rules, around accessibility.
So
I think that
Robert's rules books will be ordered. I have to remind Stephen. I'm gonna check with Clerk Wells about if she knows of a training for Robert's rules, because I'm sure this commission has not been the first entity to ask about that.
and then we'll get some embossed copies for our members.
And then for Stephen would like this commission, we would have to split it to avoid quorum, but Stephen would like all commissioners to get some training on procurement process. So they just understand
Oh, yeah.
about how money goes from existing to non-existent, going into being invested in. So we are working on that. And then
Are there hands?
I see Crystal, and then I think Ingrid's is still up from the first time and I didn't put it down.
Ingrid, did you have another question? Comment?
No,
Crystal?
Hi, this is Crystal. I don't know if there's a good time to ask this, but my mother-in-law wanted to know about how to access the brailler and braille materials.
yeah.
And I haven't seen I don't know if my email got through. I resent it tonight to just make sure that someone received it, but we'd really like to know how do we access the brailler?
May I answer that question?
Of course, Harriet.
This is Harriet. If you mean the one for the city, or your mother wants your own personal braille typewriter?
the one that the city bought that's supposed to be like if I understood correctly, it's supposed to be available to have materials printed in Braille when needed.
Yes,
Weren't
yes,
sure what
we're
materials
asking
were
about
available
that.
to access them.
And Frank and I have met with Stephen Flight, and he has asked us to do a bit of research and support to get the correct, you need to put the Braille embosser, it needs to have a cabinet to muffle it because it's incredibly percussive. And we have to find out if we're going to have one built or if there is one currently available in sales. It doesn't look real good, so we're trying to work that out. And also to proof and choose the appropriate laptop, because with a Braille embosser, you actually have to have it linked up with a computer in order to use it. And there's more rules and complicated things about an embosser, like you can't take documents in just any old format. It has to have Word documents, for example. So we're learning as we go along with the research. And I hope by the next meeting, we'll have more definite things to say. And there is a current hope that it will be housed at the TAB building on Holland Street, where the senior center is, Council on Aging.
Okay.
Eventually.
Pauline, you have your.
Can I make a comment? I worked for several years with a Braille embosser, and what we had, we were talking about a cabinet that would muffle the sound, and I forget the manufacturer of this whole setup, but the embosser was called the Marathon Brailler, and it was housed in a cabinet that came with it, that would make it quieter, so it wouldn't scare people out of their wits. And it was linked up with the computer that I used at the office. And I had to go through a training to learn to use the computer, but you need software that's compatible with both.
We're gonna use Duxbury. That's what came.
Duxbury?
Duxbury, yes.
Yes, that's what we have. That's part of what came with the bus.
Yeah, and there's one person who knows a little, and I don't know whether you've been in touch with him or whether he's still able to help, Don Breda.
What was the name? Don?
Don Breda, Breda. How would we find him?
Where does he work?
And he worked in conjunction with a gentleman, and I don't know if this man is still around, named Joseph Sullivan. They were kind of instrumental in formulating Duxbury. Let's see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah, I see your
Yeah.
hands up.
Yes, if it's helpful to you, Crystal, I believe they have an embosser at the main branch of the Cambridge Library.
Correct, and anyone with a card, this is Harriet, can access it, and there are instructions, detailed instructions. And Frank has visited twice and worked with it twice.
But thank you for bringing this up, Crystal. I'm sure, will any of us copied on that message?
Yep. You and Brian were.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I did not see it, but I will take a look when I get home. So thank you for bringing up that important topic. And Deborah, there's a document, part of our discussion about July events was creating a survey, getting some more information from people in the community about what they would like to see as supports and uses of our funds and other programs that we can do. And I downloaded the City of Revere's form and the questions that they asked. And it was included as part of the meeting materials, and I don't know, Deborah, if you would like to take a look at this. You and I can talk about it, or other people might want to help and see if this is something that you would, like us to use, or something similar.
This is Deborah. Yes, I did take a look at it, and I do have some thoughts that it may be more in depth than what we are looking for. I think the question is whether we are looking for more of priorities that would affect the task, the group that is working on ADA priorities, or what the priorities are for the commission. And I was also thinking that the mailing that we would do would be a promotion of the events that we are doing in July, as well as a survey.
Can we, if you're available, we'll invite you to come to the comms meeting,
Great,
participate in that conversation.
wonderful.
Thank you. I was looking for something else, and of course I stumbled across a survey literally the next day after we had spoken about this at our meeting. And it was interesting. It's a very simple, straightforward format. You could do it through a jot form, or you could complete it on your phone. It had multiple ways in which you could use it, which I thought was very helpful.
Holly, it's Mike. May I ask a question?
Sure.
You know, because I looked at that, and I looked at the one that we did as well. And I'm just gonna say the mental health definitions were, in my opinion, very poorly written. So I would love to be involved in anything that we do going further to help in that area.
Yeah, can we make ours louder, or?
I'm sorry.
But we have to be out of here, so you have to,
So I just wanted to throw that out.
I appreciate you sharing that. I'm having a hard time with the air conditioner. There you go. So the descriptions on ours, or the descriptions on?
Both.
Or any of them?
Both of them, they were not very well done for the mental health. So I'd love to be involved in that if it comes up in the future.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last call. Anyone want to say what they enjoyed about last night? If you were present? Who's not in the room right now? And we had Nick, we had Brian, Deborah.
Big thumbs up to the hats. Everyone liked the hats.
They like the hat.
Love the hats.
Did they know what it was printed?
On the braille, does everybody know?
Yes.
Harriet told me, so I know. This is
I'm just,
Mike.
okay.
I forget. I don't know.
Fenway Park.
Ah.
My favorite part was meeting the other citizens of Somerville. I love talking to the people around me. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Meeting them and their kids. Loved it.
And we have to give a shout out to Louise and the people at Fan Services.
Yeah, they were very helpful.
They do this so well. Oh my
Anyone
goodness.
else on the line?
Yes. We had a fantastic time. I was thrilled. I didn't have to hear Sweet Caroline, so that was great. And we did do the wave, which was very exciting for the kids. And I forgot how kind of graphic and vibrant and fun it is. And the weather was absolutely perfect, like a cookie cutter that we made our own cookies. It was perfect. It was awesome. It was so fun. And the weather was divine. Divine. And the woman that sat us on our seats had 2 World Series rings.
Oh, that's
And we
nice.
took big old cool pictures of them. So she had some fun stories and had been working there for a long time. So that was exciting.
Anyone else want to share?
Brian, Adrian, what'd you like?
Oh, I always like going to a baseball game. Doesn't matter what it is.
Well, it was my
No,
very
Harriet,
first.
you may share. You have the floor to share.
And I want to, this is Michael again. I want to throw out to Holly that I know everyone worked hard, but my gosh, the amount of work that you put in, the amount of stuff that you did, I am telling you, I was amazed. Thank you for everything that you do. Honest to gosh, honestly.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, really?
I know.
Also you, Adrian.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, yes.
And Sheila, oh my God. You got pulled in quite a bit, my friend.
Yeah.
I did get one note so far from a family and it said, thank you so much for the best, wonderful, most fun experience I had with my son. It was his first Red Sox game and it was absolutely amazing. He had the time of his life. I don't even know how to thank you.
Oh,
Diane.
Very nice.
So the best part for me was just looking at everybody in the stands reacting. So you could see all the kids, all the parents, all the different unique guests together, all mesmerized by the same thing. And when something would happen and everyone would go, ah, or jump, or they were just intent. And kids that left their seats and were sitting together that hadn't met before, but maybe in similar programs. So I think it was a very big success. Many hands made it happen. And thank you all for coming.
thank you all.
And you want to add, Frank?
No.
So I'm gonna move that we adjourn. May I
And
have a-
one last thing to say, thank you, Frank, for the thankless task of taking the notes through this voluble batch of people. Me, the worst.
Oh, actually, that's right. I did talk with Clerk Wells and he said that we don't have to do the minutes, and we don't have to ask like as an exception or an accommodation, that we should be able to have a resource either within RSJ or within another city staff or someone that can be paid to come and do all of the minutes for us. So I don't know how fast that's going to happen, but thank you again for doing that.
It would be a big help.
So, motion to adjourn.
I second.
She's on, yes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Unanimous. We all go home. Thank you all.